Welcome to Life Transformation Radio. This show is all about life transformations and our journey from where we were to why we are doing what we are doing today. We will discuss the hiccups, the roller coasters, and the blood, sweat, and tears that has been poured out while discovering our purpose. It is all about our transformations. Here is your host, Sean Douglas.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to another episode of Life Transformation Radio. I am your host, Master Resilience Implementer, TEDx speaker, business positioning strategist, and international best-selling author, Sean Douglas. This show is currently heard in over 74 countries. So whether it's your first time joining us or you've been listening to us for some time, I want to thank you to those who are listening from around the world. Life Transformation Radio is all about our transformation. Here, we tell the stories of why we're doing what we're doing. We highlight that transformational moment that changed our lives and how we use it to transform others and elevate their lives as well. You can listen to us live right here on the Blog Talk Radio Network Tuesday through Friday. Join our Facebook group, Life Transformation Radio Community, and never miss an episode by subscribing wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Life Transformation Radio can be heard on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Player FM, Radio Public, Overcast, CastBox, the Himalaya app, and the Google Play Music app. And now we are available on Pandora. Wherever you listen to podcasts, please subscribe and leave us a rating and review to let us know how we're doing. On the show, my guests are entrepreneurs, speakers, business owners, podcasters, authors, amazing people who are impacting the world around them. And my guest today does exactly that. If you have any questions for any of the guests that I bring on the show during our live broadcast, call us up at 657-383-1109. Again, the number is 657-383-1109. Call up, talk to the guests, ask questions, and let us know how we're doing. As for that, please help me welcome to the show my guest for today, Justin Womack. Justin, welcome to Life Transformation Radio.
Yes, thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Man, I'm pumped to have a podcaster on the show anytime I can. I've listened to your show, and it is really, really good. And you've had amazing guests that give amazing insight. So congrats, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we've been fortunate. We've had some exciting people. We actually just interviewed Christopher Lochhead last week.
Yes.
So excited to release that one coming up here very shortly.
That is my boy, man. I love freaking
yeah,
Lochhead.
he's awesome.
That guy, man, I'll tell you what. That dude is raw, real, uncut, and gives no F's, man. Like, it is
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, some of his answers are not orthodox answers that you're used to hearing. They're very unique
right?
to him. He just shares his he puts his heart in his sleeve.
Oh, 100%. And both of his shows. So we talked a long time ago, back when Legends and Losers was coming out, and then he changed it, and I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know if you should change it. And now it's, he's got Follow Your Different, and now he's got Lochhead on Marketing, both #1 rated shows. I'm like, geez, it's awesome. So the guy's just crushing it. So
yeah, he's got the pedigree that some podcasters don't have. Because that guy's done the stuff.
Right. So I titled this episode Marketing and Authority Building with podcast host Justin Womack. He is a digital marketing specialist, copywriter, speaker, and the co-host of the podcast Marketing Geeks. His journey from working behind the scenes to running his own business fast-tracked after a near-fatal accident where his car rolled upside down, underwater, and he spent 2 months in ICU. Since the accident, he started his own company, JMack Media, spoken for organizations like Marsh McLennan and AIG, and launched the Marketing Geeks Podcast, which has featured past guests including Pat Flynn, Dan Locke, John Lee Dumas, and now Christopher Lochhead. The website is JMack, M-A-C-K, JMackMedia.com. LinkedIn, Facebook, right there in the show notes. Connect with him. and let him know that you heard him here on Life Transformation Radio. In the show notes, he also has a free gift for you, an authority building checklist, which I'm absolutely going to grab. And so I invite you to do the same. Get the authority building checklist, which he'll expand on more in the episode. Justin, my first question that I have to ask, and it is the most important question that I always ask everybody, is why? Why do you do what you do?
Always a bit of a complicated one, but for me, it comes down to being a seeker of things. I'm a committed lifelong learner, and for years I've been curious and seeking to kind of understand why some people rise to excellence in their fields or whatever their passion is, and why some people fail to do that. And so I've studied things like NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, which I find to be useful because part of the tenet of that whole philosophy is to study or to model excellence in a field and model behavior. And I'm kind of obsessed with like human behavior and understanding like what are the things that create influence and create persuasion. And then again, positioning. How does somebody rise to the top of a certain field and earn the respect of others, and also command a tribe, command a group of listeners? So for me, like my why is to understand. Like if you go back to the '90s movie, which The Matrix,
oh, man.
which I think is recent, but apparently it wasn't recent anymore. Right. It's kind of like, unraveling that. I think that's a great metaphor because, like, I mean, when you really understand this stuff and you see like the level of tactics and influence and persuasion that goes into like sales presentations and things like that, it really makes the world seem different. And I love that. And that's what inspires me. And I think that's my ultimate why. I mean, there's others too, but that's the one that I think is the big one.
Love it, man. I never got into The Matrix. The first one, I was like, I get it. The red pill, blue pill, ha, I get it. Cool. The second one, I think, was absolutely atrocious. And the third one was a little bit better.
One?
What's that?
Did you see the first one in the theater, or did you see it later on?
Yeah, I saw it later on. I think I saw it on DVD or something.
Yeah, I think at the time, I don't know. I saw it in the theater, and it just like blew my mind. But yeah, looking back now, it did not age that well. I'll tell you that.
No. I mean, it wasn't bad. Like, it was a good movie. Like, I get it. I'm like, all right. Like, it kind of made you think a little bit. And then I don't know if they tried to overpower the second movie, or I don't know what happened. But I was watching, like, this is awful. And I think I went halfway through it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm done. And then I was like, all right, let me try the third one. And the third one lived up to its hype. It was good. There was some other things that I was like, there's no way this happens. Like, I don't get, and it kind of made you think a little bit more, but yeah, that second movie was just awful. I heard they're going to come out with another one, and I'm like, geez, just leave it alone. And they said, literally, there's a report, I don't know if there's an article, I don't know, I saw a video somewhere about Keanu Reeves, and it said The Matrix almost killed his career. It almost ended his acting career.
That's interesting. I've never heard that. I do know that they originally cast Will Smith as Neo, and he turned it down.
Yeah, he did.
Which probably worked out though, because who knows if who knows how his Neo would have been? Maybe it would have been the exact same. I don't know. But Keanu Reeves is like the most. Keanu Reeves is the guy that gets the most out of like the least effort. I don't know.
Right. Absolutely.
He's not got a lot of range. There's not a lot of range in Keanu Reeves, but he makes some great movies. It's amazing. Like I love the John Wick series. So.
Oh, absolutely. That reinvigorated his career. I think it was like a Goalcast video, or it's like it's about the life and times of Keanu Reeves. But I guess he was floundering after Matrix didn't do well, and then the John Wick kind of just bolstered everything.
Out of nowhere too. Yeah.
Yeah. In my opinion, if I had to just throw this out there, in my opinion, if you don't know who Johnny Utah is, you're not a Keanu Reeves fan. Like, that movie with Patrick Swayze was absolutely one of Keanu Reeves' best movies. Yeah. I think it was Patrick Swayze.
I just want to verify I know what you're talking about first. Okay.
Yep. Absolutely. The original Point Break with Patrick Swayze and Keanu Reeves was by far Keanu Reeves' best movie and probably Patrick Swayze's best movie. You could argue, because Dirty Dancing and everything else, but I mean, if you don't know who Johnny Utah is, your childhood was not great.
I like Speed also with Keanu. That was a good one.
Oh, yeah. For sure. So the whole show is about transformation, and literally we got into it a transformation-esque conversation about Keanu Reeves and his acting career. Transformation is everywhere. Talk to us about your transformation. Talk to us about a transformational moment that changed your life and put you on the path to what you're doing today.
So I think there's been a few in my life, but there's one major one, and it happened in 2014, where let me give a little backstory before I tell that moment. I had been working in the seminar. I had been working in the seminar world for a couple years. I was working behind the scenes and running the back end of a seven-figure business, including things like managing the CRM software, managing the marketing, managing the email outreach, writing the sales copy at times. So I wasn't the only one doing this, but I was involved in it. I was really getting deep into the craft, and this was kind of an industry that I realized that I was really drawn to. During that time, I was also working like 18-hour days. I was working for somebody else. I was I was in a tough spot in that I mean, working for another entrepreneur and a very driven one at that. They want the most out of the people working under them, and right. And let me tell you that they got the most out of me, but it also came at an expense. It came at exhaustion. It came at at like a level of just feeling, almost just absolutely like not dead, but like just 100% exhausted. I don't know. I'm not coming up with a word right now. But during this time, as I was doing this, I had been asked to come to work on a Sunday at one point, and and I was not prepared to do it, and I had not slept much the night before, and I was not in a good spot. And when I made the drive to go out there, which was about an hour from where I was living, I got into a major car accident, and my car ended up rolling upside down underwater. The most incredible part of this whole story is that somebody that witnessed it actually got out of their car, jumped in after me, and helped pull me out, because when my car went under, the airbags had deployed. I had been knocked completely unconscious, and without that, there's no way I would have survived. Now, the thing that complicated this whole situation was that the water that I landed in was like a creek bed, and it was pretty shallow, but it was, it's still, if your car is upside down in it, that's enough. And the water was filthy. So I aspirated, meaning that I breathed in this dirty water into my lungs and developed like severe fungal infections in my lungs.
Holy smokes.
And that's what led to this huge complication. So when I was rescued out of the car and survived till the ambulance came and got me and brought me into the hospital, I had a long journey ahead of me because I had ingested so much water that I now had something called aspergillus, which is a pretty common fungus that's really harmless in moderation. But when it started growing on my lungs, it becomes very harmful. And I developed a condition called ARDS, which is acute respiratory distress syndrome, where your lungs are about as thick as they can be, and they kind of harden into cardboard, is how it's been described to me. That condition has somewhere in the range of like 70 to 80% mortality rate. So because I was younger, is the only really explanation I've been given for how I even survived. And it was a crazy journey because the first 30 days I was there, I was put into a medical coma, and I underwent multiple procedures. I had to have a thoracotomy where they cut me open and actually scraped the fungus off my lungs.
Ouch.
And it was intense, man. The second month I was there, I was awake, but I couldn't really move. I had like 5 chest tubes attached to my body that were pumping things out of my body. And, I didn't have to necessarily relearn how to walk, but I had to rebuild my body because I had so much atrophy when I got out of there that I couldn't lift my arms over my head. I couldn't open like a sliding glass door because it was too heavy. It was intense how much muscle mass you can lose. In a medical coma for 30 days, plus another 30 in a bed, like it was incredible how weak I had become. And, I was a pretty strong guy going into it. I had been doing like, boxing and like all these things. And I think one of the things that helped me is I've always been like a distance runner. Like I'd always had a high cardio tank. So I don't know if that's true or not, but that's just something I think probably helped, is that I'm a guy that could run. I used to run 7 miles a day in my 20s. And so that kind of, I think, helped because I have very strong lungs, and now my lungs are not nearly like that anymore. So now I have average lungs. I don't know.
All right.
But the point of this whole story, though, is that it gave me perspective. Being in a hospital bed when I woke up from that coma or a medical coma and couldn't move for 30 days was like incredibly humbling. It was, I had to like let go of all the things that I thought like I needed to be there for. Like, I thought, it just gave me so much, like a different view on life. It's like, when I was gone for 30 days, the world went on without me, for one. It went on without me. It continues it'll continue when I'm gone. And it's like, okay, that's understood intuitively, but it's one thing when you actually kind of almost like witness it. But then there were amazing, like how these people that I haven't talked to in 10, 15 years, like kind of came out and supported me. And whether that was through one of my friends from high school started a GoFundMe and raised money for my cause. One of my several of my friends from college and high school flew out and visited me in the hospital, which meant a ton. And then I had just aunts and uncles starting like prayer circles and things like that. And it was just, it was incredible to see like that level of support and to feel, it just made me feel incredible. And it was, like I said, it was really, really humbling. Ultimately, I kind of realized that, wow, like I should not have survived this. First and foremost, I should not have survived. And so I like if I make it out of here with my faculties intact, and if I make it out of here where I'm able to, get back into business, get back into my normal day-to-day life, like I have to do things differently. And I think one of the things I've always wanted to do was to kind of start my own business and be the guy on the front, not in the back, not behind the scenes. And I think I just didn't. I felt like I wasn't ready for it. I felt like I had all the excuses in the world. But when I faced death and realized again that like this should have been it gave me permission to take some risks that I had been previously afraid to take, like starting the business and just putting myself out there more and really fighting that, because I'm an introvert by nature. So, when I remember when MySpace and Facebook first rolled out, I was a guy that like didn't want to put his photo up there because that's just I'm a private person. I tend to have that. I tended to have that belief system, at least back then. And so, all of that stuff was challenging for me to kind of make myself more of a front end person and work through my insecurities, work through a lot of that stuff. And that's again where like things like NLP and personal development have all come into my life as well. And then
very cool, man.
It leads me to starting my own business. And like I mentioned before, my why has always been to kind of understand like how people become great. And I think persuasion, marketing, psychology, all of that weaves together. And my business is in the field of marketing and authority building. So,
love it. I'm just completely amazed at the events that transpire after the moment. Because I've been told that you'll keep reliving that moment or keep living at a low level until you accept the transformation. It's like, how many times you need to be in rehab before you stop your addiction? How many times you need to go through a divorce until you figure out, relationships, or how many times you have to do this or this or this, and and these moments happen, and if we let these moments pass by, who says they're not gonna, they're not gonna come around again, or who says that they will come around again? So to capitalize on the moment like you did, I love that. I love hearing that after that moment and you're in the hospital, you're thinking, you're just like, this is it. This is the moment. I have to change whatever my life is going. Something's got to change, and I need to capitalize on this. And it's kind of that awakening that we need. It's that shaking, it's the universe shaking us awake, going, hey, wake up, man. Like, this is not what you need to be doing in life, And
I had somebody describe it to me as a forced soul redirection. That's what I was working in the seminar industry, so I hung out with a lot of woo-woo people, and I liked that. Yep. Like, actually, that fits. Yeah.
There you go. Forced soul correction. I like that. Yep. Very cool. So moving forward after that, and I'm sure it was not an easy road, but you started a business, made it your own. Now you co-host a podcast, Top 100 podcast. It's an amazing marketing podcast, and I've listened to a couple of the episodes, and it's really good. So anytime I get a chance to listen to marketing, I mean, you are competing with Lockheed on marketing, which I never miss. But between your show, Lockheed show, and Joe Polish's marketing show, that's my three. That's the only marketing shows I listen to is yours and the two other guys.
I haven't heard Joe Polish's show, but I'm familiar with Joe Polish's work, and he does amazing work. But I have not heard his show. I got to listen to his podcast.
Oh yeah, it's called I Love Marketing.
I will check it out.
That's the show. Yeah, it's like 300 some odd episodes. So I'm kind of starting from the bottom. So I just found it when I met Joe at the Spartan Race World Championship in Lake Tahoe. He was one of the speakers, and I was on a resilience panel, and we kind of ran into each other, and I was like, hey, and we got to talking, and we run the same circles. With John Vroman from Front Row and Christopher Lockhead and Hal Elrod and the Miracle Morning Community and Tim Rode and that crew. And he goes, oh yeah, like I know John and I know Hal and Christopher Lockhead. Like I know those guys. All right, yeah. Like, and so we ended up talking and I invited him on my show, and he came on my show, and that's what he's like, you listen to my show? I'm like, I didn't even know you had one.
And tying that to marketing and authority building, I mean, you're talking about an element of social proof there. You're having common connections, and suddenly Joe Polish looks at you in a different light because you have those connections in your network. So it's like, just trying to tie it in. I mean, I think that's one key amazing thing about like having a big network of people and building those connections, especially with people that are high profile, like a Christopher Lockhead or a Joe Polish. It's like an instant credibility booster, and like something that I think more and more businesses need to do.
Yeah, which goes into my question: how are you elevating the world around you by teaching the marketing, being a speaker, and showing people how to build their authority? Everyone talks about branding. Everyone talks about, you got to have the marketing. You got to have, and Christopher Lockhead, his thing is everybody creates a product, everybody creates a company, but not everybody creates the category, and that's why they fail. I always talk about positioning. You have to position yourself. There's a great book. If anybody hasn't read it, I recommend it. There's a book called Positioning. And the book is by, what's his name? Al Rise and Jack Trout. That's who it is. So it's literally called Positioning, and the Battle for Your Mind. And it's a really great book. And it got me thinking about how we don't position ourselves because we have no authority when we're starting. Life Transformation Radio started at 0 listeners and 0 downloads and 0 reviews.
Yeah.
Now we have hundreds of thousands of downloads and 30,000 live listeners every week and every month. 77 reviews, and I speak at all the different podcast events, New Media Summit, Podfest, and all that. How do you elevate the world around you? How do you show people and teach people how to build that authority?
Well, one way I elevate the world around me, I think, is to really connect with the local small business owners. And I do a lot of volunteer work for an organization called WEAVE, which is Women's Economic Venture in Ventura and Santa Barbara, for women entrepreneurs that want to start their own business, and they bring me in to speak quite frequently. And what I like to do is just kind of teach them what I've learned over time on these fundamental skills, because I think most people overlook the need to develop their authority and credibility in a scene, and they go out there and pitch their message. But if nobody sees you as a credible source or as an authority, and they don't trust you or they don't trust your company, you're in for a tough road. Like, you need to develop that. You have to be seen in a light where you are trusted and your company is trusted. And there are some tactics that kind of shortcut that journey. And I always preach, do it in an ethical way, but there are ways of shortcutting the journey, especially, and if you're qualified, like, why not use these? And so some of these things, first and foremost, like, I tried going to the local Chamber of Commerce, and I like connecting with the people at the Chamber of Commerce. There's amazing people there, but I could tell you that, like, the traditional networking model is in my opinion, this is my opinion, I'm sure it works for some people, is dying in the respect of, like, passing out business cards. When I say that, I mean, like, the way that you pass out business cards and you expect that to kind of generate business. I don't really see that as a viable way of networking in 2019, 2020. I look at my experience there was, like, I signed up, met the head of the chamber and volunteered to run workshops. And when I started running workshops through them, that's when I started bringing in clients. That's when I was able to demonstrate, okay, because when you're on stage, a couple things happen. You're automatically seen as an authority figure being on stage because you're the guy teaching the subject. It doesn't matter, like, if you're legitimately good at what you do or not, you're automatically going to be seen in a higher light. Now, if you're good at what you do, that's going to validate, and you may not, you kind of need to be good at what you do if you're actually going to sell something. But ultimately, though, just the fact that you're on stage is a psychological trigger that will make somebody see you in a more credible light. So that's one.
Love it.
It's now easier than ever to write your own books and publish it. I mean, the Amazon space, anybody can upload a PDF and have a book on Amazon.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever followed this guy, Mike Winnett, but I find it hilarious because he was able to upload a blank book on Amazon and get it to a bestseller status, and he jokes about it, which is, that's a little bit of, like, the gray area, dark side. But the reality is there, though. I mean, anybody can get a book on Amazon. Pretty much anybody can get a bestseller if you know the strategies. And when you go out speaking in the future and you're introduced as an author or introduced as a best-selling author, you're looked at differently. You now are the expert in the field. Like, people want to do business with the guy that wrote the book on the subject. That's like something that sticks psychologically. And so these are just ways of kind of quickly building your positioning, and beyond that, like podcasting. Like, having a podcast is almost like the new way of writing a book, because writing a book was, like, really, really popular a couple of years back as, like, as the top authority building strategy. I think podcasting is the same thing. You're being positioned as the expert. You're almost following, like, an Oprah Winfrey, like, model. So you're the person interviewing these experts. Every time you bring on an expert, they're going to bring a portion of their audience to listen to the show. You're going to borrow some of those people, and some of them will stick and become fans of yours. So you're leveraging other people's audiences and building your own audience. And I know we're short on time, so I can't go too deep in all this. But again, like, doing that kind of stuff too is just powerful, because ultimately, having an audience, having followers, is becoming more and more critical as we move forward. In your social media networks, you don't own those contacts. So if Facebook goes away tomorrow and you don't have those people in a separate database, like, those contacts are gone. if your contacts are stored in, some sort of social media like that, like you have to start from scratch if that network were to go away. So if you can actually build a tribe of followers, though, and this, I mean, even if you're on Facebook or something and you have followers and they're, they might go find you on a new network, but you have to have that connection with them, that relationship, in order for that to happen. And I see that as like this huge thing in business right now.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I
absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Yep, I absolutely agree.
The last one I want to add then is video. So on social media, and I don't always do a great job at this because I get so caught up in like doing client work and things like that. But like Facebook Live is an amazing tool to build credibility and to be seen as an expert, but to be seen as being busy even. It's amazing the perception that gets created by just doing a Facebook Live every day. Because I've experimented with this and done this in the past where I did a Facebook Live for like every day for a month. And it was incredible how people were like, oh my God, you're so busy. But it's just how when you put that stuff out in the public, it just creates its own narrative around you and your brand, and it's I almost find it funny because it's like, no, I'm not any busier than I've ever been, but I just happen to do a Facebook Live video every day for that time for 10 minutes.
Right. It's time consuming, and I laugh at people who are like, man, I started my podcast and I have like 5 listeners and I'm only like 3 episodes in. Like, well, duh. Unless you're like, so the only people that can get away with having millions of listeners in the first like 5 episodes are famous people, because they've already built a following.
That's a society of like instant gratification. You want things quick, but that's another thing is, business is about patience. And I wanted to have $1 million business in year 1, but the reality is, I'm still not even there yet. But I'm finally getting into the 6-figure range. So it's good. It's a slow build, and a lot of the skill sets that you need to get to scale the business, like I didn't even know I needed them until year 2 or year 3 of the business. So it's like it's a learning process. There's incremental jumps. I mean, there are savants that will accelerate at this, and I try to find, I do my research and try to find the ways that I can scale even faster. But ultimately, like, there needs to be a level of patience. There has to be a level of understanding that, like, I have to earn this. Like, this isn't automatically going to come to me, and you have to work hard. I mean, that's my experience. My experience is you have to put in the work. And now I think after running a business, coming up on almost finishing 4 years now, I've come to realize like that story of like how there's no overnight successes. I actually understand that a lot better now from from my standpoint, because I just see this happening more and more where people have been doing this stuff for years and years, but then suddenly they get they catch a break and they hit the mainstream, and they're considered this overnight success. But there's very, very few examples of overnight successes that actually happen overnight. In fact, I'm not sure that I've ever seen one. So these are the accumulation of years of hard work plus a break. They catch a lucky break. That's the difference. They caught that break.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've built 4 businesses while serving in the military, and I've built them all, on the side, and I've hired out people and, just to grow and scale, as fast as I could, but spending 3 to 4 hours a day on it. And 3 of those businesses have 2 went to 6-figure, multiple 6 figures. Yep. And then the third one, speaking, training, coaching, all that stuff, the podcast, like the whole incumbents of the Success Core is teetering on that like 6-figure mark. It's like I'm over 6 figures, and then this year, like I kind of went under it, like 80, 90, and then. But it's like up and down. And then the fourth one I just started this year, which is the affirmation and empowerment clothing line that I started back in May, called LYB Clothing Inc. LYB stands for Live Your Brand. And I believe that when you live your core values, when you show your true authentic self, that is your brand. And that one just got started, and it blows my mind when I'm on, Facebook, and I call them Facebookpreneurs. And they say, just started my first business, and I'm already making $1 million. I've been in for 30 days. I'm like, there's no way. There's just no way. Like, it's so hard for me to believe. Maybe they do.
$1 million client.
Yeah, right. I'm like, what did you do? Sell one person for $1 million? Like, what did you? You know what I mean? Like, are you selling Tesla trucks? Like, what are you doing? And it's just like, I see people that are 2, 3, 4 months in, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm making $500,000. I've already got it. Da, 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 da. I'm like, there's no conceivable way that is happening unless they have like venture capitalists behind them, or angel investors, or they've got some kind of a VC firm that is actually directing their steps. Like, there's no way a solopreneur is doing this.
Yeah. The only way I could ever see that happening is if you're running a seminar model. It's possible. Having worked on the back end of seminar businesses, like there's $25,000, $50,000, $100,000 packages being sold from the stage. So when you're running a seminar model and doing that, yeah, it's possible to make 6 figures in a day. I've seen it done. I saw 600,000 in a day once from one of the companies I work for.
You don't start off like that though.
You don't know. No way. You're not going to start off like that, and you have to have an audience because you have to fill a seminar room, and that's its own challenge. Let me just add this though. I love that you live your brand message that you have there, because I think we're in. There's a lot of people out there that turn it on when they get on Facebook Live or they get on a podcast. They want to turn it on. They play like a character, and I think if you're doing that, it's got to be exhausting, because you want to, in my opinion, you need to be the same person you are on the show as you are off the show. And if you're not doing that, then it's like eventually somebody's going to catch you like in your normal self and see like a totally different version of you. And I just find that to be off-putting, and it feels inauthentic when you see like incongruencies in people. So I think ultimately, being yourself, just putting yourself out there, being willing to do that, along with with the positives, with the negatives, being vulnerable, I think that's what ultimately pays off, and eventually that's how you develop relationships with a community, because they associate with those vulnerabilities. They associate with that. You don't want to project like a perfect image or put yourself in front of a Lamborghini, especially if you don't own one, and try to pretend. So,
oh man,
just things, just some things
that kills me. Right. Oh, that stuff kills me. Like they go to ATM, they take out like a couple $100, like, look at this money, and they put it back in the bank. It's just the stupid stuff that I see. I'm like if you look at the people who are very loud and obnoxious about it, and you look at the people who are very quiet about it. I've never seen you do that. I don't do that. The Gary Vaynerchuks of the world, Joe Polish, John Vroman, Christopher Lochhead, they're not doing that. But look how successful those guys are, and they're very humble about it. And it's very different than these other people who are like, look at me, follow me, look at me. And it's those loud people. I'm like, nah, I don't think so. No, I'm not going to follow you.
Share milestones. Like for instance, on Monday, we Marketing Geeks had 250,000 downloads, so we had 250,000. I shared that on social, and that's a big deal.
Yeah,
awesome. But it's not something. I'm not faking that, and it's I put a screenshot and everything. And
as you should.
And so I think it's important to share those kind of things, and I often tell people online is not is not the place to be humble at times, especially if you're a business owner. So a lot of people, if they donate to charities and things like that, they don't like to share it, and I understand that, and I think that I respect that from an influence and a persuasion and business. When I put that hat on though. You want to communicate that. You want people to know who you're donating to. You want people to know who you connect and resonate with, because that ultimately shows them another side of you, and it'll attract people into your tribe that may not otherwise have been attracted. So I'm a proponent of being really, really authentic, open, and totally transparent.
Yeah, my show hit number 46 on the charts in my category. That was 500 something startable. Great website to go to. You want to check your rankings for your show. You want to see what reviews you have, your audience. There's a lot of great information there. And so everybody look like, oh my gosh, Life Transformation Radio 6 in the improvement category under education. And I'm really, really grateful for everybody so much for making this happen. And all my listeners. Right? Then there's a big difference saying, look how awesome I am, and look how awesome Life Transformation Radio is, and I'm a great host because my show is number 46, and I'm the best, and like the me monster people. And there's the Marketing Geeks surpassed 500,000 downloads. Could not do this without the listeners. Thank you so much for all of your time and effort spent on listening to the show. Really, really
Yeah.
thank you so much. Like, there's a whole big difference between that and saying, look what I just did, and your arms are like outstretched. Look at me, and you're shouting mountaintop. And people don't follow mountaintop people. They follow, look at me, what I just did, how great I am. People don't follow that. The rest of that, So I follow the monsters like Grant Cardone. I think me monster. I don't follow Grant Cardone. Like anything about Grant Cardone, I think it's loud, obnoxious. But there are some people that follow Christopher. It's one. They're one of them. Joe Polish. The three shows to listen to. That's all I need. The three great shows. And go. What I do about 4 minutes left. What I do is give you an opportunity to talk about the free gift that you're going to give the listeners. They can get, and then talk about how they can thrive your show.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, the free gift that I'm giving out is an authority building checklist. So I kind of described a little bit about some of the tactics that I employ for authority building, but if you want to get the full tactical checklist that I have that available on my site. You can go to jmackmedia.com/authority, and I'm going to spell JMack. That's J-M like Mary, A-C-K, media.com/authority. You can go there and download that PDF for free. Also, you could go to the website marketinggeekspodcast.com, where you'll find links to all of the major podcast networks to listen to that show. You can also listen directly through that website, as I have an embedded player on the site. But you can find links to, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the major networks. And we're actually now available on Pandora. We finally got through the Pandora holding thing. It took like 9 months.
So long. I did it way back in like March or April or something, and like a month ago, they're like, I'm like, geez, that was like 8 months. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was weird, but same thing. It was like I had totally forgotten about it at that point, and I randomly get an email. I'm like, oh, right, we're on Pandora. Cool. All right. I guess that's cool.
Yeah, I was like, holy smokes, I even forgot. Like, it took long enough, Awesome. So I just went to that jmackmedia.com/authority, did my name and email, got that sent to my email. So got the list now. That's great. And I noticed that you're giving away a call right after that. If you want to schedule a call, there's a little link to schedule the call. So that's pretty cool. So you get that checklist, and then an offer for a call. So very cool. I like that. And as we close the show, I want to give a takeaway. If they don't listen to anything else you and I have talked about today, they listen to nothing else. There's the one takeaway about that you can get them, Joe.
I mean, I like what we mentioned about positioning being critical, and I talked about how being like on a stage or being an author are ways of building quick authority. In my experience, the most important skill that I think for any business owner to acquire is the art of public speaking. And we didn't necessarily even talk about this, but I just want to. This is my key takeaway. Public speaking is the most important skill for any business owner to master because it is the fastest path to building authority.
Got it. It's the quickest to master. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Amazing. Justin, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. It's been absolutely phenomenal. And, man, I just wish you the best in all your continued success, especially going into 2020.
Thank you. Love being on here. Thanks a lot, Sean.
Thank you, man. Life Transformation Radio listeners, an amazing guest impacting the world around him. If anything resonated with you in our conversation with Justin Womack, co-host of the Marketing Geeks Podcast, connect with him on Facebook and LinkedIn. Go to his website and let him know that you heard his episode of Life Transformation Radio and subscribe to his show. And with that, I close it by saying, live your brand. An opportunity every day to live out core values that you hold deep in your heart. Call this living your brand. Until next episode,